Good morning and welcome to this Elephant podcast. And our very special guest this morning is Dr. Willy Mutunga, former Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. But I would describe him as a crusader for justice in this country for many decades, a former detainee, and somebody who's been a mentor to many in civil society, in politics, and across Kenyan society, and continues to do this work. Welcome, Willy.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Really, you've watched Kenyan history unfold, Kenyan politics and society unfold, and we seem to be at a very interesting moment now, especially as concerns the relationship between the judiciary and the executive. Right now, with the government seeming to be ignoring the court orders, and a very adversarial relationship has emerged. What do you make of this, and what are the implications for Kenya, especially considering the new constitution in 2010?
I think this is a great question, but we need to historicize it, interrogate it and problematize it.
Yes.
And we just go back to, say, independence, so that we can trace that relationship and we see, what's happening today. During colonial period, the judiciary was an extension of the colonial state.
Yes.
In fact, a lot of the magistrates, as you know, were DOs and DCs and PCs. Police officers who are, like the OCPD, they would also have judicial powers. So basically, it's the judiciary didn't even stand up to the colonial system. So the whites who are here, and maybe Goans and the Indians, had a different justice system, like not like the natives.
Yes.
Okay, so if you trace historically the judiciary up to independence, the colonial judiciary, the people who tried Kimathi, the people who tried other Mamo fighters, Mwindi Mbingwa and others.
Yes.
Those are the characters who took instructions from the state. And they basically took instructions, just like the Kapenguria tribe.
Yes.
Where that guy was bribed. To lock up Kenyatta. Yeah. So this was it. And then Kenyatta comes in, and the judiciary is not even Africanized.
No.
Thanks to Charles Njonjo, who is the Attorney General, and he keeps the High Court, white, and then the magistrates is brown.
Yes.
Okay, and then the Africans have to try and get in. In fact, this book by Mwangi, if you read it,
The Black Bar by Paul Mwangi.
Yeah, you see the struggles by lawyers in the 70s, to make the judiciary African. Because even the lawyers couldn't get into the serious business. They couldn't do cases. And there were all this a judiciary that was again captured, by the state. And if you go back to these stories about Sajdeva, about Rao, about Joginda Soki Singh, people, you'll be arrested on a Friday by Joginda Soki Singh because he wants probably money or something. And if you didn't do what he wanted, he hands you over to Rao, who was the DPP. And there was Sajdeva and other Indian magistrates who were there to fix you. And you can even go back to the trial of Kina Mutiso. You remember that in 1971 there was a coup d'etat, some coup d'etat.
A group of people were picked up on that.
Picked up. There was a Professor Uma,
Yes.
And they were jailed for 9 years by Sajdeva.
Yes.
That trial was not very different from the Kapenguria trial.
No,
it wasn't. And that's the coup that got Kitili to be, removed from the judiciary, and Ndolo from the army.
Yes.
So you have that system, and I saw a bit of that system myself when I started practicing law in 1972.
Yes.
Okay, the judiciary was so unreliable. You have cases like, you have a case with a nation lawyer, and you go to the chambers to be heard.
Yes.
And you are waiting out there for your colleague who is Asian.
Yes.
Kumbe is inside with, with the judge.
Yes.
It's like things were, blatant, and I became a victim of that myself before I went to detention, because I was charged with possession of seditious documents.
Yes.
Possession of a leaflet, actually. And I went to that judiciary. I appeared before a guy called Abdul Rauf.
I remember
Abdul Rauf was the chief magistrate. My lawyers are Kiraitu, Gitobu, Hamati, were not even being heard. He was just shouting because it was a done deal. So I didn't get born. When I was detained, I wasn't even taken to his court. I was removed from prisons, which was totally illegal, because it's the court that has sent you to prison, because they denied you bail. So you cannot be abducted from prison by policemen who take you to not central police, the traffic police area. And the Muhindi was there. He was the security officer for detainees. And I'm detained. And my family didn't know where I was for.
As far as I knew, you had been...
I was in prison.
About the sedition.
That's right. And I was in prison. And then the coup d'etat happens. And, nobody knows where I am.
This is the attempted coup of...
Yes, of August 1. Yes. I was supposed to be caught on the 29th, I think, of July. And I'm detained the night before, and I disappear. Nobody knows where I was.
Dr. Devin D, who's one of the founders of the Elephant, he went through an experience, which I'll be keen to get your opinion, because you were going through things in the 70s that seem to have some parallels.
That's what happened to Ndi and Miguna and people like Njimi Wanjigi losing their passports has actually traumatized me, because this is what happened in the 70s and the 80s.
Yes.
People disappear, or the police will come and pick you and hold you in comunicado. And they'll do it in the presence of your wife and children. And they take you, and they don't... They say, just like when I was taken from home, they were told I'm being taken to Central Police Station. I wasn't there. I was taken to some other place. And for him, you can imagine a guy who is abducted and kidnapped, and he's driven
from Mombasa.
Yes. Okay? The man-eaters of Savo, those that place. Yeah. So he must be utterly traumatized. And when I saw his wife talk about it, it's reminded me of those times when people, arrested, many from the university, many from wherever, and you didn't know, what will happen to them. And that's how even the Nyayo torture chambers were about that. They say they are taking you to a police station, but they take you to the chambers which were not known.
No, underground,
Underground and so forth. So, again, passports being withdrawn, again, this issue of Miguna, for example, court orders,
But I wanted to take you back just a little bit before, because I want to ask you questions about nationality.
Yes.
Around this issue of the passports. But I wanted to ask, what does this mean for the judiciary right now? That court orders are being. I mean, I saw the Cabinet Secretary for the Interior, Dr. Matiangi, appear before Parliament this week, and he spoke in fairly harsh terms about specific judges, called some of the judges evil.
Yeah.
At the same time, we've had court orders being ignored. This comes just after we passed 8 years ago a new constitution, which you are central to bring it to birthing for this country.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
So the judiciary is at the crossroads now.
Okay.
The judiciary can't be what I described, what I've described during the Kenyatta dictatorship, the Moi dictatorship. It can't be. It can't be because of the 2010 Constitution. The 2010 Constitution has given the judiciary the independence, the power to implement that Constitution. So when the judges are making orders about Miguna, that's a very, very, very good sign. And they are not doing it because they are courageous. They are doing it because that's what the Constitution says. Yeah, and they have sworn to defend the Constitution. They are also office, say as much. So what I mean by crossroads is that the judiciary now either upholds the Constitution and they protect all of us from what is emerging to be a dictatorship. And we have seen those before, we've fought them, so we will still continue fighting them. But the judiciary should be the temple of justice where these are Kinandei and Miguna run to.
Yes.
And from what I've seen in terms of Ndei and Miguna, I was very, very happy that the judiciary came up with orders to release people, orders that comply with the Constitution. And although people tend to blame the judiciary, if you look at the way orders are being disobeyed and the way the judiciary has reacted, it's also very positive. Okay? In the sense that you summon these ministers and others, knowing very well they won't come.
Yes.
Okay? But you still proceed and fine them. And the people haven't realized how that conviction is going to harm those three people. Soon, Okoito Mutata or somebody is going to go to court and say, these people are convicts, they are state officers, they have disobeyed, court orders, therefore they are unsuitable
to hold those offices.
Yeah, and those are the consequences that we've got to look at. How far will the judiciary go when court orders are being disobeyed? Because a disobeyed court order is a subversion of the Constitution and the rule of law. And the judiciary can't give the impression that is impotent to enforce its orders. So they have to go all the way.
Okay.
They have to lock up fellows. Okay? And that confrontation is not the judiciary bringing or waging war against the executive. No, it's the executive that is waging war against the judiciary. And in any civilized democratic society, court's orders are never disobeyed. I can give you a great example of Mandela. You remember Mandela fired Winnie once?
Yes.
Illegally.
Yes.
And the court said, no, this is illegal termination. Yes. You follow the law.
Yes.
And he was the one who went went on air and told the public that, I'm sorry, but the court is right.
Yes.
And they proceeded to follow, the law. That's how democracies strengthen the institution of the judiciary. So if the judiciary then caves in, to the executive pressure, which is very, very, very clear when you look at Matiangi, is a face from the past. which is painful for me because I see the way he's talking and I just wonder, who advises this guy? What is the AG and Solicitor General and the DPP? Why aren't they reining in this guy? Because what he's doing is even not good for the country.
Yes.
You cannot be summoned by the court and you say you are not given a hearing. You didn't go. What?
Yes. Yes.
And even in these cases of contempt, because you remember once with Muita and others,
yes,
we were charged with contempt of court.
Yes.
The LSK during the second deliberation.
Yes.
And Judge Mwera said, if you are in this country and you are reading the papers and you are watching TV, you will know that you have been told to shut up. So the court orders can be served by your knowledge.
Yes.
That court wants you.
Yes.
They don't have to look for you.
Yes.
And in any case, how will Matiang'i be served? Who is going to serve Matiang'i?
Yes.
How?
Yes.
It's like what the courts did, saying that Matiba's petition should be served on Moi. How do you serve these guys?
You're going to State House.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you see, that's another example of doing the impossible. So the courts are basically saying appear.
Yes.
And if you don't come, you get you're punished. So the other road is that one of caving in.
Yes.
And the judiciary itself has its own divisions.
Yes.
So now they have to become an institutional political actor,
yes,
a national institution,
yes,
where the ethnic divisions, the religious divisions, the gender divisions, regional, because they also have their own divisions. They can be divided.
Yes, yes.
They can go to, these are judges,
yes,
and so forth, through ethnicity and so forth.
Yes.
So if they go that way, they are taking us back to the 80s and 70s and so forth. But so far, from what I've seen, they are loyal to the Constitution. And the other day, the Chief Justice had a dinner for retired judges. And I told them what I'm telling you.
Okay.
I said, you are at the crossroads. If we can't run to court when you were being chased by the regime and they get reliefs and you protect us,
yes,
then you become again the arm, the arm of the executive, and that's it. You're taking us back to the 70s and 80s where we have to start fighting all over again. And yet we have a constitution, yes, implement the constitution. So that's what I think we should watch. And the independence of the judiciary is about the people. It's not about the judges.
No.
The judges need to look around and see people are glorifying what they have done.
yes,
Okay? I'm sure somebody like Odunga must be happy when people say that Amedunga. So for us as the public, we should be ready then to be, protecting the judiciary. And in fact, I was thinking that when the court makes these orders,
yes,
for people to appear,
yes,
and they don't appear,
yes,
because the judiciary doesn't have a police force.
no,
Who is going to arrest these people?
Yes.
It has to be the citizens, What is called the citizens' arrest? So that if we see Matiang'i in Kisii, a group of citizens saying, now you are under arrest, we're taking you to court.
Okay.
So for me, the Kenyan public also in this national project must avoid the divisions.
yes,
Must avoid this thing. Oh, this is from our community, and therefore they have the right, to disobey court orders and so forth. And then the community supports what is not a national product. So it's back and forth. And for people, if you're going to talk to people who went through these problems in the 70s and 80s, they must be traumatized because we thought that was the past.
yes,
But then it's coming with a very, very harsh reality.
yes.
Yeah.
One of the other developments that we've seen over the last number of weeks has been questions about nationality.
Yes.
Passports being withdrawn from particular individuals. There's the whole saga that played out at the airport regarding Miguna. What is your opinion in that regard? In terms, there's a bit of a debate that has developed around, is he a Kenyan, isn't he, etc., etc.
Yeah, this issue of passports and nationality again is historical. People forget how Aaron Mwau fought for a long time about his passport.
Okay.
That history of Mwau.
Yes.
Aaron Mwau passport was seized.
Okay, I know.
And he was in court.
Yes.
There are those cases. You should talk to Mwau.
Wow, yes.
Because Mwau connects with the 2010 Constitution. These struggles by individuals like Mwau, Gibson Kamau Kuria,
Yes.
where passports are taken. People like Alamin Mazrui, whose passport was taken. He couldn't travel out of the country to go and work. They wouldn't give him a job. Okay? In my case, my passport was taken. I couldn't get out.
Yes.
But because I was an advocate, I started practicing here.
Okay.
So there are a lot of people who are denied their livelihoods because they couldn't move. The passports were taken.
Yeah.
And that history, again, is the history that is reflected in the 2010 Constitution. The 2010 Constitution was basically saying this should never happen. Okay? Freedom of movement is absolute.
Yes.
Okay? And even if you are taking somebody's passport, you have to tell them why. So that they can go and the court and whatever.
And seek relief.
So this thing, I've seen on Twitter a lot of debates about Miguna is the fact that his ID is fake or whatever and whatever. This is nauseating and it's very painful. Everybody knows that this guy was born in. There are pictures of him. At the university.
Yes.
He's a guy who is expelled from the university, goes and he goes to Canada,
makes a life,
makes a life there. There are people talking about renouncing whatever and whatever. People are not reading the Constitution. Those are not issues. You don't lose your nationality of birth.
No.
Especially if you have been chased around by the state itself. They kick you out of university, you then go into exile. How are you going to, survive? And when we talk about the Constitution saying the right to life, it includes livelihoods and other things.
Yes.
Okay? So these debates are totally irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. The court has ordered. Okay, there is an order that what happened to Miguna is wrong.
Yes.
If people are unhappy about what the court's order, they should appeal.
Yes.
Yeah, but as we know, there is a court order that has interpreted, the Constitution about this particular issue, and the fact that in 2018, what used to happen in the 70s and 90s and the way Gibson, Kamau and others faced these problems. Yes. And in 2010, we said this should not happen. Yeah. That's why I tweeted and I said, if I lose my passport in Skipo, I'll use my ID to get home. Yes. What is this? What is this thing about things have to be stamped and so forth? Yes. You're a citizen. You can walk through that place with your ID. Yes. They know you're a citizen. And the fact that you now say the ID should not be, what is it for? It's evidence of our nationality, just like a passport. Passport, it's for you to travel out of this country. It's, if you're around the country, even when we use the planes, we use our IDs.
That is
okay?
True. That is true.
And so this thing for me, the Miguna thing, the way I see it, is this intra-elite conflicts.
Yes.
Where Miguna becomes, to use the metaphor of the elephant, the grass.
Yes.
Okay,
it's being trampled on.
It's not a legal issue.
No.
People are, splitting hairs about the constitution, about the law. It's about the politics, and the politics is what we need to look at.
Yes.
And that has its own history as well. The reason why Kenya has not been able to think of alternative politics outside politics of division and polarization is if you go back, to the 60s after independence, there was politics of issues when KPU was formed.
That's right.
Ideological and very political. Differences and whatnot, and people debating the Kenya they wanted. Odinga himself wrote a book, Not Yet Uhuru. Yes, it's very, very clear when you look at it. It's thinking, ideology is politics. Boya wrote his on freedom and after, and his sessional paper number 10 with Kibaki and the Americans, which is how we got into the mess that we are in now. But after 69, when KPU was banned, the politics of ethnicity and divisions stepped in. They actually came in with the swearing in, and the oaths in 69 by Kenyatta. That's that narrative. Okay, that this is an ethnic thing. It's the Kikuyus who are in power, and therefore, the Luos want to derail them and whatnot. And it started. And if you follow the issues of Ngema and all these formations, a gay petition, it's so about alliances, ethnic alliances throughout. And we've been captured by these ethnic alliances, even at the so-called second liberation. That's what it was. Some guys kept out, Kina Odinga, Muliro, and so forth, and saying there is no Section 2A must be changed. But when you look at the second liberation, it turned out to be alliances. Even it's very, very significant to notice that Ford, when they came out, it was an ethnic alliance.
That's true.
The Luos were there. Matiba was represented by Kashoka. And Ndenge represented the Kambas. Bamaris, the coastal guys, and then there was Shikuku and Muliro.
That's right.
Okay? So there it was. And they were basically saying there is a group here called Kalenjin that has decided to have power exclusively and so forth. So we've focused on these alliances, and there is a dominant narrative, which basically says our future, our political future, lies around ethnic alliances. You either pick the Kikuyu Kalenjin alliance, which is Jubilee, or you pick the NASA one, which is these others.
Groups,
So you have 6 barons, who determine whether Kenya goes to war or is peaceful. So if they shake hands, everybody is, excited. So the barons have come to determine when we go to war and when we are peaceful. That's 2007. It's the same thing. And we have to transcend that kind of politics, particularly the young people now. They've got to get out of
that kind of thinking.
And start talking about their education, talk about their health, their right to work and so forth, because that cuts across, communities.
All ethnic groups.
And so the project of nation building or making Kenya a state, a nation, is actually now what I would call the third liberation. If we are going to go into that, we're going to implement the constitution. We are going to end our politics of division and polarization. And once we become a nation, then we will look at the issues. And that's how we will look at devolution, as resources are equitably shared. And we look at the constitution says the imperial president is dead, so we must make sure that it's dead and buried. It can't rear its ugly head again, by capturing the central bank, the treasury, and even having the audacity not to comply with the monies that are supposed to be taken to counties.
That's right.
So, if Kenyans are, what this teaches me, what has happened, these recent events, they are very, very ominous, They basically tell us that it's a clarion call for a third liberation. And that's what we have to start now thinking about, how it's going to happen. Because it's all about mutilating the constitution.
Yes.
And if you kill devolution, it means that the Somalis will start saying again, we are not citizens.
Yeah.
Now they don't say it because they are, they're getting resources. Kitui, Makueni, some of these Nyanza, during Moi's time, Nyanza didn't get resources.
No.
Moi had this philosophy, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. You don't get if you're not out of it. Yes. So the constitution is the cradle, of this, third liberation that we have to build. And that's how alternative politics, are going to come in, where we say, look, if we become a nation, we will be a very powerful state in East Africa. Yes. Already we dominate East Africa, but the politics is provincial. Yes. There are characters who want to dismember Kenya. Yes. So this is it, and I think what is remaining now for Kenya is to have, a political party that then becomes the reflection of the third
liberation.
Yes, and we basically say we're sick and tired of 50 years of ethnic alliances. This country has how many communities? Over 40.
47 now.
Yeah. Yes. So you have the big five, not the animals. The 5 communities. Yes. They determine, who, when we are going to be at peace, when we are going to develop, when we are whatever. And they don't even have the intelligence, the barons, to rotate that power. You can imagine if they were just rotating power, there wouldn't be problem. Yes. They haven't even settled the succession issue. Yeah. Any elite that is civilized would be able to share. To share. Yes, but so we need to really expose the root cause, of our terrible politics. The way we can keep on moving forward, and then we'll move backwards. Yeah. But the important thing that you have to watch also historically is that Kenyans have never allowed to be oppressed. Yes. Within these dictatorships of Kenyatta, Moi, Kibaki, and Raila, all of them, if you look at them, there is a trajectory of people resisting, getting killed, and whether it's Akina JM and others, Pinto, the Mwakenya period, the December 12th movement. There were always people resist. Yes, and that's the message we should also take to the dictatorship. That look at the resistance, and we basically keep people very, very optimistic, because the other choice is not, is not acceptable, and that's where the judiciary, in my view, I've kept telling them, you will become an institutional political actor. You cannot now start saying that you don't do politics, because the Constitution allows you to do politics. It allows you to protect these people whose rights are being violated. People talk about the immigration laws. I've heard lawyers say that. If you look at Article 20, it says that immigration law, if it violates the freedom of movement, it has to be changed. So the Constitution is really, as I said, has to become the cradle of this third liberation, and we've got to then usher in the politics of issues, which builds on becoming a nation, because these diversities become our unity, our strength. And that's the new politics that I think, should happen after 50 years of us thinking that the only narrative is that is which baron is going to be our president.
Yes.
And ethnicity has become a disease.
Yeah.
When you look at it, from the worker to the professor,
Yes.
there are people who basically their narrative is so ethnic, and you wonder whether they went to any school.
School at all.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they are vicious,
Yes,
very, very vicious. People like you, Ndi, Wanyeki, Gathara, Maina Kiai. The stuff I hear being said against you by your community is what I heard in the 70s against Michere Mugo and Ngugi wa Thiong'o.
Okay.
And Kamoji Washira.
Yes.
They were just facing the same thing. That's why I'm saying this history keeps on hitting at us. It keeps on coming back. Because those Kamoji, Michere, and Ngugi were nationalists.
Yes.
So they didn't want to support, Kenyatta Kanu dictatorship of the 70s just because it was a Kikuyu thing. They said, no, it wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't. And they paid the price, and the other guy, Maina Kenyati,
Yes.
For Muranga.
That's right.
So it's there. If Kalonzo became president, I'll be the first target.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I always ask him, who made you the king of the Kambas? Under the new constitution, we need to vote.
Yes.
We didn't vote. You self-appointed, baron. It's undemocratic. And if the Luyas, if Mudavadi became president, people who express the national project the way you guys are doing, they will get into trouble.
Yes.
That's the history, and that's the history we need to basically completely wipe out, and start talking about, the national project. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Really, that was very, very, very powerful. Really, trying to do what what Mwalimu did in the 60s for Tanzania, Kenya is starting now.
We're talking about history. We're going back and forth. So there is no harm in looking at Mwalimu's experiment in Tanzania, where there are more communities and whatnot. Yeah, people, the main thing about any development in a society is equitable distribution of resources, full stop. Yeah. And that's it. That's it. And you make the public goods available. And by public goods, I mean education, health, housing, sanitation, security, yes, is an important one. There are public goods that are paid out of our taxes. And that's what the Constitution, basically guarantees. And the state can't keep on saying, there are no resources. Why aren't there resources when they are being stolen? They are being wasted. Yes. One of the projects that I think, Elephant should do, maybe ask Ndei to do it, because he will do it greatly, is to look at the Auditor General's report from the 60s. Do the figures. Yes. Because even Njoroge was
documenting every...
Yes, the thefts and so forth. Okay? Yes. And get those figures and compare them against our national debt. Yes. And go further and look at the assets that the Kenyans elite have abroad. Yes. Those figures will
match.
They will tell you everything.
Thank you very much, Willy, for joining us here at the Elephant today. That was a very powerful rendition of the current condition and how we get out of it. Yeah. Asante for joining us. I'm sure we'll be calling on you again. Asante.